Oh my God. What is happening with the Denver Broncos? What is happening in this GD coaching search? What is happening in Las Vegas in the Shrine game? Yeah, we're gonna have to wait on talk about that, Mace, because it's orange and blue today, 3:30 p.m. Mountain Time. I am live in Vegas. You see my East West Shrine Bowl notebook behind me, my credential on my neck. You will be
Did they
joining
give
me.
that to you when you got your credential? You got a notebook?
Yeah, I got a notebook and I got the
All right.
rosters and I got the itinerary. So yeah, we're ready to go. Can't wait to see you tomorrow in Vegas, Mace. We will break it down for you right here at denversports.com. Best Shrine game coverage that you're going to get. Best Senior Bowl coverage you're going to get. We got you covered. But man alive, dude, we have so much to get to. The D'Amico Ryans thing, now it seems like he's favoring Houston. What's the latest? What are your feelings? Because I have faith in the Walton Penner group, but I got to tell you, brother, I am shaken right now.
You know what, Cease? Here's the thing, and I wrote about this in my column at Denver Sports today, denversports.com earlier today. It's this. The Walton Penner group can give D'Amico Ryans the best contract. They can outbid the Houston Texans. Their largesse, their resources can take care of that, can take care of making sure that anything D'Amico Ryans asks for in terms of I need a if I need a extra wing on the building, whatever, they can do that. The problem is the Walton Penner Group cannot buy draft capital, cannot buy cap space, cannot buy their way out of the AFC West and 2 games a year with Patrick Mahomes. As I wrote, Houston's a better job right now because of division location, because of the location of draft picks where the Texans have 2 in the top 12. The Broncos won't pick any earlier than 28, and they got 2 Texans have 2 first rounders next year as well. And then allocation, as in cap space allocation, because the Broncos are tied to Russell Wilson. Even if they move on before 2024, they'll have 2 years of a heavy dead money figure. So these are the things that unfortunately the Walton Penner Group cannot change. And D'Amico Ryans may look at that landscape and say Houston's a better job.
Yeah, he may say that, and we're getting reports now. And I understand it, Mace. I won't be too specific. I'm trying to be nice. But when I see reports of like, well, the Broncos would be very aggressive if D'Amico Ryans chooses Houston. The people here in Vegas, the NFL types, the scouting community, nobody's saying the Broncos are being aggressive. They're saying like they're not even going to get their second choice or third choice.
Mm-hmm.
So I think things are a little bit different than the PR movement. People have gotten the memo. Let's say that because the message is the same. They'll be aggressive on their fifth guy. Like, oh, I am so shaken today, man.
Yeah. And I think there comes a point where you just have to say, okay, if we can't get the choice maybe we wanted, what's a choice that can work? I was just on the drive a few minutes ago down the hall, and I would say if it were up to me, who's the best choice if you have to move on past D'Amico Ryans? To me, the best choice is Jim Caldwell.
Yes.
And he's the best choice, in my opinion, for this reason. Job number one, and the quickest way out of it is by fixing Russell Wilson. And Jim Caldwell has a track record of taking quarterbacks to another level. Yeah, he's had some good material with which to work, but even Peyton Manning will tell you all about how Jim Caldwell got him to an MVP level where he wasn't at before.
Yes.
He took Joe Flacco to another level. Joe Flacco got a Super Bowl MVP with Jim Caldwell whispering in his ear. Matthew Stafford was just regarded as okay, not great. Then Caldwell got a hold of him, and he started to soar. And the Lions had 3 winning seasons in 4 years. And if you can, 3 winning seasons in 4 years in Detroit, you've done something. So looking at the landscape, I think the best way to kind of recover ground is probably to hire Jim Caldwell and say job one is fix Russell Wilson. The next move by Caldwell is keep Ejiro Evero on the defensive side, keep as many defensive coaches as you can, try to keep all that together, and then the other level of this is I would bring back Jerry Rosburg on special teams as well. I would actually feel really confident with the quality of coaching if you had a Caldwell, Evero, uh, Rosburg triumvirate guiding each of the three phases respectively. Now, yeah, Jim Caldwell's not going to win the press conference. He's not going to get up there and say, wow, Russell Wilson. But I think he will make Russell Wilson better. And I think on another level, I think he could be the kind of person Russell Wilson needs. And yeah, it came up when I was on with Kyle Reese and Zach By today. You know, the notion of, okay, is Russell Wilson coachable? Well, you know what? Maybe there are issues there, Cease, but we know that Russell Wilson and Peyton Manning do communicate. And I guarantee you, Peyton would tell Russ something to the effect of, listen to this man, Jim Caldwell. He will make you a better quarterback. And then I think it wouldn't be an issue of, oh, is Russ going to do his own thing? I think Russ would do exactly what Jim Caldwell told him to do.
I think that's exactly what Peyton Manning would do. He'd point to the noggin and be like, just listen. Listen, 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 Linda, listen. Mm-hmm. And Russell Wilson would. I think that was a misconception during the season. And yes, Russell will have questions, and I don't mind that. I don't mind if Russell Wilson goes to Nathaniel Hackett and says, I think this will work. I think this will work. Now, you need a strong personality to be like, no, we need this, because then it reflects on this and it echoes to that later on. And with Jerry Rosburg, those two games, we saw 3 touchdowns a game from Russell Wilson. So for people who say Wilson wouldn't listen, we have 2 games that prove contrary to that sentiment.
Yeah, and on top of that, I think Caldwell would put together a good staff. I mean, first of all, I don't think Caldwell would call plays. I think he would work very closely with the quarterback, but I don't think he'd call plays. But how does somebody like Jim Bob Cooter, who is the pass game coordinator in Jacksonville, who was the offensive coordinator in Detroit, how does that strike you? Someone who's been here in Denver, worked with Peyton Manning. What about even making a play at Brian Callahan? Because Callie was the quarterback coach in Detroit under Jim Caldwell. You could get him because he doesn't call plays in Cincinnati. I mean, I'm kind of just trying to put some pieces together here. But this is where the Walton Penner largesse could matter, because you think that Cincinnati could outbid the Walton Penner group for Brian Callahan to be a play calling offensive coordinator. And I think Callie might jump on that if given the opportunity.
Well, and then we have the chat room. Greg chimes in like, Caldwell's not the long-term answer. I'm not really thinking about that right now. I'm thinking about the next 3 years. Give me the next 3 years. And if you get Callahan, imagine if there was kind of a like Caldwell to Callahan like handoff. You know what I mean? So there's your long-term answer is actually the staff. It begins with Caldwell, and in 3 years you hand it off to Callahan.
I mean, I would say Callahan, or even if you want to go defensive side, you could have Evero. But I think with Callahan, what that would do is that would keep him from going somewhere else. The Broncos did interview Callahan last year to be a head coach, and we obviously know about his work in Cincinnati with Joe Burrow. He is going to be a name that becomes a hot candidate. Actually, I mean, if we're and if people really wanted to have a younger head coach, I mean, I'd say, well, what about Brian Callahan? Maybe he brings in Jim Caldwell as his assistant head coach. But I'm kind of just thinking of what's kind of likely right now. And to me, and this is where it comes back to, all right, give me a coach that's done it before, that has had a track record of success. And if you could have Brian Callahan as kind of a coach in waiting, there's a way that you could kind of walk the path of immediate short-term results while also kind of settling your long-term plan as well. And then the thing is, if they can't get Russell Wilson up to speed, then you draft a quarterback next year, and they would be in exceptional hands with Caldwell and whoever his right-hand person was on the offensive side.
Yeah, it's about Russell Wilson if you can, and then if you can't, it's about the next guy. And you have to
Mm-hmm.
have someone that's capable of both. Now, Chris asked a question I think is very fair, and a lot of Broncos country wants to know. Well, what are you waiting for? Like, I know D'Amico, you'd have to wait for obviously, but
Yes.
like, man, this has gone in a way that I did not envision at all. It can
No.
still be fixed. It can still be righted. I'm not going to fall for the PR and say they're aggressively like, no, nobody's saying that. People are asking me what the hell's going on. But I, like Chris, is, like a lot of people are saying, what are you waiting for? What are you waiting for, Mace?
I don't know. I
Sometimes it's like that, right?
yeah. I mean, I thought they would have had a coach because I thought it was going to be Jim Harbaugh. I thought they would have had him 2 weeks ago. Now, if we want to put on the tinfoil hat, we put on the tinfoil hat and say maybe Jim Harbaugh just wants to stay at Michigan long enough to make sure everybody in the recruiting class is signed, sealed, and delivered, so he doesn't leave his alma mater high and dry. Signing day, of course, is next week, and then move on and take the job. I mean that okay. You want to think of like the most bonkers ending to all this? It would be if Jim Harbaugh took the job.
Yeah.
Like he got the recruiting class in, and then he left Michigan and took the Broncos job. That would be several steps beyond insane. But after what we've had in the last 48 hours, 48 to 72 hours here, I mean, what path could this take now that isn't crazier than the roller coaster we have been on this week?
It would be actually it would be the way to save face in a way, and it would be like trading the shaggin' wagon for a moped that gets 70 miles a gallon on this
Yep.
hog, and you totally redeem yourself. Yes. If you're Greg Penner, still go get Jim Harbaugh. Everything's
Give
fixed. Everyone's talking about what a move. They didn't even know. People thought they would. Oh man, the Penner group, man, it would be quite the celebration.
we have a little bell that we can ring. Like I love that when he pulls up here, ring, ring, ring.
Yeah, it's the little things, right?
70
The
miles
little
to the gallon on this hog.
Right, right.
Oh, and the best part is you're right along and you can get your meal because he swallowed a June bug. It's not that hungry.
Exactly. Hey, it's a former motorcycle rider. Like, yeah, if you don't wear a dome, you're gonna eat some bugs. We'll eat the bugs.
Yeah.
Yeah. I want a head coach. I want the right guy. If it's Caldwell, I can definitely get behind that. But man alive, the competition for D'Amico Ryans, things heating up, speculation either way. And honestly, Mace, I think the best way to approach this is a way that you and I have approached this. And if something's changed, please let me know. Again, I'm in Vegas. I'm running on like 2 hours of sleep. But I will say this: we don't know. Okay, Greg Penner talks to one guy, basically. George Payton talks to one guy. Those guys are not local. Okay, so
Yeah.
if we are peeking through keyholes, now we have informed people we talk to. We have PR people that we talk to, and PR people have an angle to make the team look good. So when you hear multiple local reporters report the same thing written different ways, you know it probably came from Patrick. I hate to name names, and we all love Patrick, but yeah, I mean that's where that is coming from. He's doing his job. He's one of the best in the league. But the God's honest truth is because Greg Penner doesn't talk to any except for one national reporter. Nobody really knows, and I guess maybe that adds, and maybe it's the 2 hours of sleep. But like I'm on some nerves today, buddy. Like, and maybe it's because we truly don't know. We could guess and we could check in and we could listen and we could try to dig, but we truly don't know exactly how this search is actually unfolding.
Right. I mean, I think you meant George Payton talks to one reporter, not Greg
Yeah.
Penner.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. Sorry. Yeah.
Yeah.
George.
Yeah. Yeah. Because Greg Penner, he keeps a lid on it. Condoleezza Rice, she keeps a lid on it.
Yeah.
And look, and Spencer makes a good point. The fact nobody's been hired is that they want someone on current playoff coaching staff. Look, I think that is why when we were trying to put together the pieces of the jigsaw puzzle, we didn't have all the pieces, but you put together the piece of okay, it has to be somebody who's not available this week, and that was D'Amico Ryans. Right there, you go. If the Cowboys had won last week, who knows what kind of conversation we're having right now. We might be having a conversation if D'Amico Ryan's already coaching the Houston Texans, but that's not where we sit today. Um, the D'Amico Ryan's also in terms of like planning things for next week, planning second interviews. He can't set those in stone yet. I mean, he can talk next week, but how his next week looks is different based on whether the Niners upset Buffalo or Philadelphia, pardon me, or lose in Philadelphia. So that's so that is another layer to how kind of unknown this is that you can't even plan this. But here's one thing though. One thing I don't want to hear about is timeline. Like, oh, it does, D'Amico Ryans may not fit the Broncos timeline. If he's the coach you really want, you wait it out. You wait until after the Super Bowl if that's what it takes to get your coach, okay?
Yep.
Ask the 49ers about that because the 49ers waited out Kyle Shanahan 6 years ago. I don't think they have any regrets about that. The other thing also in play for D'Amico Ryans is, and I've talked a little bit about this on various shows, is what executive does he want to work with? And that's where the conversation that D'Amico Ryans could have without George Paton in the room could be key. Because Ryans has seen firsthand the value of coach GM alignment, because that's what they have in San Francisco with Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch. They don't agree on everything, okay? You're never going to agree on everything, but they have a shared overall vision, which is why we're talking about the 49ers being in their third conference championship game in the last 4 seasons, despite having Mr. Irrelevant as their quarterback, right?
And if
because
you
they
hire
built something and
D'Amico
they have a shared
Ryan,
vision. Yeah.
and you have a shared concept of who you are. Like they know who they want to be. It's one of the things, that you look at a team like the Steelers, like how can they get these defensive ends that are linebackers? Like, because they know what they want. They know who they are. The 49ers know that. So I know what you're saying. Mm-hmm. It makes me happy. I give a Keanu kiss as soon as I get to the keyboard here. If it's D'Amico Ryans and Adam Peters. And people will be worried like, oh my God, yeah, you could move on to a different GM right now, which would be a bit unusual, but you could because Adam Peters has already been doing the work. He's already been studying. He's on the same page with D'Amico. He knows what kind of player he wants. He knows what kind of player the Broncos need. I would applaud it. Rand Carthon, I think it's going to be a hell of him and Mike Vrabel. Imagine that. I mean, we talk about the Buffalo and the Kansas City and the Cincinnati. Rand Carthon could get the Titans right and get them back into that conversation where now this conference is even tougher. But if you get D'Amico Ryans and Adam Peters together, and if I'm the Walton Penner Group, I am offering up that option.
I actually love the Titans alignment with Rand Carthon and Mike Vrabel.
Beautiful.
And because it also tugs at kind of the football nerd heartstrings as well, because Rand Carthon is Maurice Carthon's son, and Maurice Carthon played, I believe he did play for Bill Belichick at one point, and Mike Vrabel played for Bill Belichick. You see what we're talking about with alignment and connections and all that?
Yep.
And this is where, if you are the Broncos, you may be able to offer something that Houston can't, because perhaps Houston does not want to throw Nick Caserio under the bus, their GM. But if you really want D'Amico Ryans that bad, and I think George Paton, by and large, especially with the draft, has done a very good job here. I know there are a lot of people are going to disagree with me on that, but there's a reason why the rest of the NFL's executives and scouts honored the Broncos for their work in the 2021 draft. They found 6 starters in the first 4 rounds of the last 2 drafts. Despite losing draft capital last year, they found at least 2 starters in Greg Dulcich and Damari Mathis. Okay. They're doing good things there. But if the ownership really wants D'Amico Ryans, he's their guy. And then you have to probably say, sorry, George Paton, but D'Amico wants this particular GM, and you have to make the move for alignment between the GM and the head coach. It pains me to say that because a lot of people disagree with me on this. I think George Payton's done a really good job. Yes, I know the trade it's not working. The Russell Wilson trade, it's not working out right now, but the vast majority of the moves Payton has made has worked. Okay. I mean, yeah, Randy Gregory hasn't worked out, but, but other free agents did. I mean, getting Justin Simmons re-signed when John Elway seemed unwilling to do that. Look at how Simmons looked last year, especially down the stretch, right?
Mm-hmm.
He's made more, George Payton on balance has made more good moves than bad. So it would be a sacrifice. But if that's what it takes to get D'Amico Ryans, it might be something the Broncos have to think about.
And if that's the guy you want, that's what you do. I think I made Kyle Reese mad today when I was like, we got to stop praising him for getting Pat Surtain, because Pat Surtain was a can't miss. He's like, well, you would have slammed him if he'd have missed. I'm like, who would he have missed on? I mean, your options were Micah Parsons, Pat Surtain, and Justin Fields. And while Parsons had character concerns, he's one of the best players in the league. Surtain, one of the best players in the league. Justin Fields, great upside. I still think the Bears need to consider a quarterback. But anyway, I digress. It could happen. It would be unfortunate, but that's this business, man. I often tell the story, Mace, and we'll keep it a little brief today because you got to go to the airport. So you could get here to Vegas with me. But one of my buddies, Matt Littlefield, who helped build the Chiefs, he helped build the Chiefs, drafting of Jamal Charles in the third round, stuff like that. So Matt, 20-year scout, stuff like that. He comes in. Who was the former page? Scott Pioli comes in,
Scott Pioli.
fires everybody. Matt works at a bank now in Chicago, and he's like a great eye for talent, great scout, but he made too much money, and he never worked in the league again after building a really strong Chiefs team. So I'm not saying George Payton's going to work at a bank, but like this is the nature of this business. It's pretty cutthroat, even if you have a good track record.
Exactly, it is, and I mean that's why it pained me to say that, honestly, because I do admire the work that George Payton has done by and large. It was an injury-plagued roster last year, but it was still a better roster than the Broncos had toward the end of the John Elway years. But if that's what it takes to get things aligned, I mean, the funny thing is we were talking about Jim Caldwell earlier in this show. I mean, how do we know that Jim Caldwell doesn't mean a return of Peyton Manning in some form, right?
Right.
I mean, and I know that would excite
love
Broncos fans. Yeah, even though he doesn't have experience, but I will say this: if Jim Caldwell is the head coach, Peyton Manning's going to be around that building more.
And everybody get on board with that.
Oh yeah, I imagine he'd be watching more practices. Actually, I was saying this yesterday. If it were Jim Caldwell that was the Broncos' next head coach, I'm not saying Peyton Manning has to say something. I'm saying it'd be a very powerful visual if Peyton Manning was in that press conference room when he was introduced. I think that would go a long way in terms of the PR battle with Broncos fans to getting Broncos country on board.
You want to make it right? You make it right with Peyton Manning if Jim Caldwell is your guy. Mace, we're going to cut the show short today. Yep. You're getting to the airport to get to Vegas. I'm in Vegas, so I want to see you here tomorrow. We're going to have a great time. Practice early in the morning, 2 practices before noon. We will have stuff on social at Mace Denver. You can go ahead and follow me at Cecil Lammey. Unfollow me after the draft. But right now, you can if you would like. And follow me because you and I are going to be putting out some great videos between practice, post-practice. Orange and Blue today. On Monday will be kind of a greatest hits, provided they don't hire a coach, of our Saturday, Sunday. Then Monday, you and I will both be going to Mobile, Alabama for the Senior Bowl. More great stuff this week. It's jam-packed. It's a wild week, but we are here for you. He is Andrew Mason. Follow him on Twitter at Mace Denver. I am at Cecil Lammey. I'll actually look at my mentions now. Anyway, it's the draft.
Yeah.
Be safe. Be kind. Know that you are appreciated. Stay tuned. And as always, please stay frosty.